Hello, welcome to the Makers Studio. It's lovely to have you along. We have a fantastic lineup for you today, including our very special guest, Claire Campion. She's a quilter and designer, and she'll be showing us how to use the walking foot on a Janome machine. We are also joined by Valerie Nesbitt. She is one of the UK's finest quilters and patchworkers and internet sensation, and also Jane Brogan, who is a Janome tech expert and also a fantastic educator. So let's go meet Claire. It's lovely to meet you.
You too.
We'll be seeing some of your final pieces of work later on, but I just wanted to ask you what walking foot is then, and this is something you're going to be demonstrating.
Yeah, sure. So a walking foot is basically just a foot that you put on your machine, and it helps push through a thicker amount of fabric. So with quilting, it's fantastic because your feed dogs feed from the bottom and push through, and then it basically does the same at the top and helps walk the fabric through, so it goes through evenly. If you use a normal foot, you kind of feel like you're putting more pressure through and you end up with puckers. The top sometimes doesn't move at the same time as the bottom, so walking foot just kind of helps out.
You make it sound really easy. Hopefully through your demonstration people will be able to use this with ease.
It makes quilting so much easier, so if you've never used one before and you've struggled with quilting, definitely try a walking foot.
So what are you going to make for us today then?
So today I'm just going to demonstrate a few walking foot quilting designs, which is the last process of making a quilt. You normally make your patchwork top and then you baste it with your wadding in the middle and the backing, and then you quilt it, and you can either send it off to a long arm specialist, which is someone who has a great big machine and can quilt the quilt on these big machines, or you can use your domestic machine, and that's where the walking foot is fantastic because it makes your job a lot easier. But a lot of people just do straightforward lines. I'm just going to show you a few designs you can do with straight line quilting, which just look a bit more interesting.
Fantastic. So what thread are you using?
So you can use any thread. Good quality thread is always the best way to go because you just don't want it breaking. I'm going to be using an Orifil 50 weight, which is 100% cotton. And for today, I'm going to be using this colour that just contrasts against the top, so it will just give a nice finish to be able to see the design more easily. You can do that with your quilting. You don't have to have a plain colour to go on your quilt top. If you want your quilting design to stand out, then choose a colour, because when you finish it, the whole colour on a spool looks quite dominating, but it's not as dominating once it's quilted. Other makes are Madeira. They're also really good to quilt with as well. So this here is your walking foot. Very important, this is the AquaFeed one, that this little part here is clicked in, which I'll show later as well. And what it will do, the feed dogs are in the machine here, and then you also kind of have these little teeth here as well, and that's going to go up and down and move your fabric on the top. So I'm just going to start. I'm just doing a normal straight stitch. I'm just going to lengthen my stitch a little bit though, which is what I tend to do on bigger quilts because then it just goes through quicker. You don't want to go running with the walking foot, you do want to walk. I normally go a bit faster, but I'll try and keep it slower. And the other thing I wanted to mention as well is quilting gloves. I probably won't use them today because it's a small sample, but these are fantastic because they help you grip the quilt as it goes under, because you're going to be not pushing it through, you're just going to be helping it along and keeping it straight in whichever direction you need to go. And these have like little sticky tips, ever so slightly, like not too much, but it helps kind of grip onto the fabric and helps you kind of move it more easily.
So you're just going to do a straight line?
I'm going to do a straight line, but then I'm just going to go a little bit quicker. I'm going to start off with a grid. So basically straight lines this way, straight lines the other way. And I haven't mentioned, but with this one I have marked out the lines with a hero marker, which is basically equivalent of a quilter's butter knife. So you just use your quilting ruler, and wherever you want to draw your line, you just basically make a crease in the fabric, and that's what I'm using as a guide. So I'm going to quickly just sew this grid, and then we'll move on to the next step, and eventually we'll make this double boomerang shape here.
What's your inspiration for your designs then, Claire?
Just In the moment, whatever I see, really. I do like quite bright modern designs with my patchwork, with making my quilts. Quite geometric, quite like the logical way of things, so lots of straight lines normally.
Is that your kind of scientist background?
I think so. I think it does. Not that I've overthought it at all, but I think it definitely just comes through. So, yeah, I'm trying to be a bit more adventurous.
A lot of people are like that, aren't they? They like to follow a pattern, know what they're going to get at the end.
Go from A to B, and you know that you'll end up with C, definitely. But there's so many things that you can do to kind of make it more interesting, but still keep it kind of straightforward, like that you know what you're doing, you know what you're going to try and achieve and get at the end of it. So,
and repetition of patterns as well. You've likened it to a magic eye, which reminds me of 90s house parties. Do you remember magic eyes? No. Oh, just me then.
No, I do.
I think we're perhaps
the magic eye pictures. Yes.
Yeah. So if we look at your designs long enough, are we going to see a dolphin jumping out?
Well, no, not quite that.
Not
but
quite that. Maybe
a few extra shapes. Yeah. But yeah, maybe a few extra shapes and things. So yes, the collider quilt, I think, which is behind me, was the one that kind of was definitely the one that came together and more shapes kind of evolved as it was pieced together.
You've had quite a busy time during the pandemic, and as we've heard again and again, you know, people have picked up, whether it's, I don't know, a paintbrush or sat at their sewing machine, they've found doing something creative a really good way of passing the time during lockdown. And this really kicked off for you during the lockdown period.
It did definitely, and also because I took part in the Genoli Big Skillshare, where I taught someone how to quilt, and we actually won the competition, which was amazing. But yeah, that was very much me going, okay, I might as well try this and be able to like concentrate on doing something with your hands, I think is brilliant.
And reaching a new audience as well through social media. I mean, you know, it's a really good way of kind of connecting with people, perhaps a new generation of sewers, quilters.
There's definitely been a wave of new people, I think, that have picked up quilting, especially during the pandemic. And it's fantastic to watch because there's so many, I think, much younger generations are coming forward because they've had the time to do it. As their lives are so busy, they wouldn't have done it. So it has been really nice to see it and just see, like, it's like a fresh wave of people coming into it, and it's nice. It's really lovely to see and to be part of it.
I know your daughter is interested as well, wants to be like them. The stuff that she makes is incredible.
Yes, so I've just taught her how to make her first quilt. So, and I've got two daughters, and they've both been nagging me for so long to do it, but then it's finding the time, and when I've got two of them as well, it's finding the space to not get crowded myself with trying to teach them both at the same time.
Do you find that she can sit quietly and relax and do it as a nice kind of wind down thing to do in the evening for her?
Yeah, she definitely needs supervision still though. I don't quite trust her to go solo. So, but no, she definitely, I could see her mind unwind while she was doing it. It was nice. And it was nice for her to see the creative end to it as well, to like have, like, she picked it up at the end and was like, I can't believe I made this. And that's the best feeling, isn't it? It's like why we all do it. It's just that, it's just a wonderful feeling thinking that you've made something with your own hands.
But I mean, you must be a good teacher, because I think that's, it's a really difficult thing to try and communicate. If you have a passion for something, that's one thing, but to be able to communicate that to, you know, the next generation, and kind of grab them and hold their interest.
Yeah, it is. It's definitely challenging because I've got no teaching kind of education at all. It's just, but I think when you're passionate about something, it is nice to try and teach someone else what you're doing and pass it on. You have to really love something to kind of to do that as well. So it's just nice.
Yes.
So with that, are you just putting the grid in place?
Yes,
on
sorry,
that
I was going to
sample
stop and
now?
say, I was just trying to get ahead while we were chatting as well. So
Popping
I've
the
just
grid on.
literally done a grid, and then I'm literally just going through the centre of the grid, kind of across it.
On the diagonals.
On the
almost,
diagonals,
yeah.
so just go diagonally across through your centre points.
For somebody who's not as accomplished a sewer as you, you're obviously eyeballing from one point to another, but you could use your hero
I would
marker
normally,
again,
I would have
couldn't
normally
you?
used the marker and marked it. I'm
I
just,
mean, maybe for a child or something, a 9-year-old,
Yes, definitely, yeah.
That's so neat, by the way.
I'm trying to do it the best I can, just without having to stand up and mark all the time, but yes. So once
it's much quicker if you don't have to mark it. Though.
Oh yeah,
I just get on with it.
I really love a design that doesn't need much marking. So there'll be another design that I'm going to quickly go through in a bit as well, which is basically you just draw the one line and then you use your foot as a guide and you don't need to do any more markings, and
That sounds like me.
Yeah.
That sounds like my sort
Well,
of
I suppose
pattern.
if you want it wider, you've got a quilting guide bar that you can use
Yes,
as well.
you can.
Get
Which
a
so the
wider.
guide bar would come out and then you'd use your guide bar. So you wouldn't look at your needle, you look at your guide bar to follow the line.
And that's great if you want to do some cross-hatching on your quilts.
Yes, I use that quite a bit.
It is really handy, that.
You only need to mark one line.
And then you're away.
When do your designs come to you, Claire, then? Is it in the middle of the night or when you're out and about?
All the time, actually. Like when you're out and about, you see shapes and patterns in everything, like toilet tiles and all sorts. It's the most random places, or books and not in books, but like the front covers of books and things. It's amazing where you just suddenly start seeing patterns and shapes everywhere, because it's in your mindset. When you're like designing things, you just have it in your brain, at the front of your brain. So I think you're just more aware of it.
And how do you go about picking your colour themes?
For me, I tend to go with the backing fabric that I've chosen. That's where it really helps me, because I've got no artistic training, so and I know I have a colour wheel and everything, and I know which colours that should go together, but sometimes I find it too, like it's trying to...
too prescriptive.
Yeah, it's not like I'm not choosing it, it's choosing me kind of thing. But then I find such inspiration from backing fabrics, and I've got all my like solid colours like in swatches, like little cards, and then I can pick and match and then put them together, and that's how a lot of my quilts have come together, by matching up the backing fabric. And then you end up using combinations that you would never have thought to use before. So it's quite a good tip if you're struggling to pick front coloured fabrics. That's for solids, that's for solid fabrics. For printed, but then you can take those colours and try and match in a printed fabric as well. So just doing this last one, and then
That's
we'll
quite
move on to the next
interesting,
bit.
because most of us, we piece the quilt front and then we go, what am I going to put on the back now?
Yeah.
You look for something then, so it's almost doing it in reverse.
Yeah, and I used to do that, and then I used to get really frustrated because I couldn't find the right backing fabric.
Yeah.
So
That's a very good tip, that one. I should
Yeah.
remember that.
So I am going to quickly mark this because it'll be easier to do. But so you've done your grid, and then you've done your crosshatch, and then I'm going to mark the middle. These crossed lines, the first square lines, you just need to mark the middle of them. This is going to be the point that you're going to sew to make your boomerang shape. But you can see already it's gone from a very straightforward grid to a more interesting kind of, do you call it crosshatch? Kind of, it's like a very typical quilted pattern, isn't it?
And that's a nice thing with the walking foot and the quilting. You can do as much or as little as you want, can't you? You can get some quite complex designs, or you can keep it quite simple. You don't have to.
Yes, definitely. I think the first time I got shown any kind of walking foot designs, I was like, how did you do that? And they were like, oh, I just did it on my machine. And that's how I kind of found out about it. It was from other quilters, kind of sharing their knowledge and saying, oh, just use this. And if you look at these books, and they'll give you some great ideas, and you kind of get hooked, and then it just kind of complements your quilting work as well.
I imagine it's one of those things that you can just carry on learning,
Yes.
techniques.
It's with anything though, you
Talking
kind
to
of, you
like-minded people.
You start
just
off very
expand.
basic, and then you just kind of grow. So I'm going to eyeball it again, but you can, I'll do this first row, you can mark it out with a pen. This is a fabric erasable pen. You just literally can draw on fabric, and then you use an iron, and it will just, like the ink will disappear.
Wow, magic pen.
You can again use a hero marker, but it's just a little bit easier to see. So I'll just do the first row to show you what we're going to be doing.
Do you find the quilt tops tell you how they want to be quilted?
Yes,
Sewing?
yeah, you kind of get a feel. I think, yeah, it depends what kind of formation the grid. If it's a block-based pattern, to follow those blocks, or if there's a lot of squares and kind of you might want to quilt something a bit softer, which is why I really like the curve that I'm going to show in a bit as well, because that kind of breaks up. It's a lot softer than like a more straightforward grid formation like this one. So I'm just going to.
So with this grid, you would be going from the edge of your quilt, on a bigger thing, from the edge of your quilt to the edge of the quilt.
I should mention that you start from the middle. So you always, whenever you do your quilting, you start from the middle and work out one way, then you turn your quilt round and you work the other way. So so you don't, I think it's also to help, so if the fabric slightly shifts,
it
evens it out.
Yeah, yes, going back on yourself.
Yeah, because we always have the backing and the wadding, don't we?
Yeah.
Make it a little bit bigger, so then you've got room for it to move slightly.
Yes, that's why the wadding's a bit bigger on here as well, just to keep it. You don't want to cut straight. So I've literally just straight stitched from that line to the end of that line. I'm just going to lift up the foot, keep the needle down and twist round. I'm going to sew down to this point here. And this is making a boomerang.
So you would do this stitch across the pattern. You've got plain fabric there, across the pattern.
Yeah, across
fabric,
the whole patchwork.
Triangles and everything.
Just
yes,
imagine this was a patchwork top. You'd
right.
go across the whole thing. And not to worry, because it might look like you're going to ruin the top, but it will look, once it all comes together, it will look great.
Well, that's the thing that most of my students say. I don't want to ruin it. I love my patchwork top and I don't want to ruin it. So yes, and the walking foot is actually, the machine is doing all the work for you because they know how to sew. So being able to do what you're, as you say, superimposing this.
And I think everyone has to remember that this is not permanent pen, they're stitches. Worst case scenario, get your seam ripper and just rip it out.
Yes,
so it's absolutely fine. And I have done that. I have actually pulled out a lot of quilting before now when things have gone wrong.
Is it because they went wrong or because you didn't like the choice of pattern?
The one time I had actually done the patchwork top wrong, and it was for a pattern test, and I realised that one of the shapes was the wrong way, so I had to unquilt and stitch the quilting.
I think we've all done that.
Haven't we? Yes, that brings back memories. There's no easy fix to that.
No.
It's good to admit that we all make mistakes, isn't it? And
absolutely.
You can get out of it.
Yes.
You can undo the issue.
And that's it. No one is ever perfect, and I think that's important to know as well with quilting, that I can guarantee on every quilt none of my points are all pointy, like they're not all pointy. It's fine. Just do your best and it'll be perfect. So I'm just going to do the last row now. And then you can see already it's starting to produce a really interesting shape with your quilting. Instead of just a very straightforward cross or very straightforward like squares across it, is actually forming these patterns, these boomerangs here.
It's looking really good. I'm amazed how neat it is. It's fabulous.
And the lines aren't dead straight. I have to, so don't worry about having to be perfectly straight. It's more forgiving than you realise.
And I think when you're using pattern fabrics as well, it tends to blend into it. So
Yeah. That is the only thing about using solid fabrics.
Yes.
It's not very forgiving at all.
No. But that's true of a lot of the modern quilts, the beautiful model quilts that you've made. You've got a lot of negative space, open space that isn't patchwork.
Yes.
Effectively. So something like this really fills it in.
Yes.
Lovely.
Yeah. I think that's what kind of draws me to those kind of designs, is that I love this side of making a quilt, and I know a lot of people kind of shy away from this side, don't they?
Well, I think there's been, they feel that they can't do it, it's a learned skill, but actually they've made the whole top, so they've sewn it.
I think that's harder than actually this part. I think it's just getting over the mind block of I've got to go over the whole quilt. I could hurt this quilt from doing this, but as soon as you relax into it, it's absolutely fine. You know, you'll be fine. So I'm just going to do the second boomerang now, which is basically following the same dots again, but from the other corner. And then you make your double boomerang shape. Just make sure I'm doing it right.
Claire, you said that you taught your student the pattern over Zoom. So how does that work when you have that kind of distance between you? You can't. I mean, did you have your machine in shot? How did it work?
I actually, when it got to the more complex parts, I did actually make some videos and sent them over to Zoe to so she could stop and start them, because I think the only thing when you Zoom is that it's not recorded, and I think a lot of the time we watch something and then need to re-watch it to kind of pick it up, like with anything. So so towards the end when it was getting the harder parts, that's what I did for her. I sent over little videos, because when you pick up a craft and you've been doing it for a little while, I think we all forget how much we just take for granted, like what we know.
You forget that some of the how to turn it on instruction you forget to share that.
And Zoe hadn't even changed her needle on her machine, so she was like, how do I change a needle?
At least she asked you.
Yes, I know. But we kind of built up that trust doing it. It was really nice. And she did do a mistake where she pieced a load of pieces together the wrong way, and she was so devastated. Oh, no. And I was like, it doesn't matter. I was like, just unstitch them, go to bed, get a night's sleep, and you'll be fine tomorrow. I said, don't do any more today, because your brain will you'll just do another mistake, and then you'll be even more annoyed with yourself. So.
Yeah, we all get days like that, don't we? You just walk away and have a cup of tea and then come back in a few hours.
Yeah.
I'm almost finished. Just doing the last few now, it's almost finished.
It's really therapeutic watching you work. I'm just imagining your little girl snuggled up to you, just watching you work.
Yes.
Getting sleepy before bedtime.
I wish it was that idyllic.
Off to bed now.
Oh dear.
Yeah, that's really taking shape.
So it's really quite simple. So you've got to imagine doing this across a much bigger quilt. So it obviously will take a lot more time, but it is worth it to get a nice quilted finish, just to have something a little bit different.
How long would one of your quilts take to make?
To quilt, to finish this part of it, it would take, this would be best part of a day, I think. So probably a good 5 hours, 5-6 hours, so maybe longer, depending how big it is and how close, because this is the example here. So this one's a much bigger version of this. This is the same design, the double boomerang. So this is 2 inches. So obviously, if you did that across a big quilt, it would take a lot longer. So you can just space out your blocks if you wanted to. The grid that you start off with, that determines how big your quilting pattern is going to be for this design. So, but it's worth it. It's really worth it. So that's it. That's finished. So all you need to do now is take an iron to this to get rid of your pen marks, and it's finished. So that's the first design.
Claire, it's been lovely watching you work. We're going to see some more techniques now. So what are we starting with?
So we're going to start with this one, which is called an echo curve, which I think gives the most amazing texture. And I've done this a lot on my big quilts, this close together as well, and the stitching.
It's lovely.
So, and it looks very daunting, but it's a really, really nice one to do, because you only make one mark and then you use your walking foot as like a guide, and you just follow the line over and over. So I've jumped a few steps. Whatever size quilt you have, you want to cut it into quarters, so you've got a centre point. And then you just want to just eyeball it. It does not need to be perfect, but you just want to make like an S shape through it. So kind of round this way to the centre and then round the other way. And this is going to be your first line. So just keep your needle in the middle, same stitch length as before. I like about 2.8 when I'm quilting. It can be shorter, it can be longer, whatever you're comfortable with. And I'm just going to quilt this quickly. Now, because it's not completely straight, you do kind of need to manipulate the fabric a little bit and just follow the line, but the walking foot will help because it's going to be walking the fabric through for you.
Do you determine the width between each?
This is, I basically just use the left, is it left? Yes. So the needle, when the needle gets pushed to the left side, and then it's just basically the width of this foot from when the needle is, which I'll show you just after this first line.
Do you find as well, Claire, that having that wider throat space on that machine actually helps you having more space to get your quilts through? Because we've got 210mm space there.
Yeah, this is absolutely amazing. It's slightly taller.
Slightly taller,
I think it's slightly taller, but yes, definitely. It doesn't really, you don't really see it with this size of quilt, but when you've got a bigger quilt and you're working it through, this space here is amazing, as well as having an extension table which takes the weight of your quilt off as well. If you're only going to do it on this section here, the main body, then the weight of the quilt kind of pulls it off, and that can make the quilting part quite difficult. So that's your first line through. And if the iron was on, I could take all these lines off because you don't need anything else now apart from this stitch line through the middle. So I'm just going to shift the needle to the left. So the needle's just gone over. So you can do this on any domestic machine because they'll all have this function. You don't need anything fancy. And I'm just going to use, just make sure I'm doing it the right way, that way. So you want the stitch on your left hand side, I'm going to lower my presser foot, and where that stitch line is where I'm going to keep my foot. It's going to keep that distance all the way around this curve again. So we're all good to go. And don't worry, so this is where I probably should have had my quilting gloves on to help a little bit. But don't worry if it's not perfect. It's really forgiving, but it gives the best end result.
And the same principle as you were saying before, you work from the inside out and then twist around and do the same way the other way. Yeah,
exactly. So I'll do this, I won't do it all today, but just so you get an idea, I'll do a few more stitches. So you'll do this side all the way to this tip, you twizzle it 180, and then you do the other side. So you're kind of working from the middle out, and then that kind of pushes your fabric out as you go.
Yeah, it pushes the centre. The other thing that I always share with people is that middle bit is the only time when you've got half of your quilt going through the space. So on a regular domestic machine, that's really tight. On these, you've got all that additional stuff. But it gets easier. So when you're fresh at the sewing, you're tackling the most difficult
you are,
bit. It's always going to get easier. But having the bigger throats on these machines makes a huge difference.
Yeah, it's a game changer, isn't it? It does give you a lot more confidence because you're not battling with a big wad of quilt getting through at the same time. So yes. So imagine I've done all that side. I literally swing it round and do the other side on the way out, and then that's how you get your echo curved design. And what's really nice about a curved quilting design is that it just softens any pattern, any patchwork pattern. It just complements. So you don't need to worry about having to find those straight lines that go perfectly with your patchwork straight lines. It will just kind of cover up any little mishaps you might have in your patchwork top. But looks amazing.
It does, and you've made it look so easy as well. I'm thinking, I could do that.
Honestly, you can. Like, it is a bit of muscle memory. When you've done quite a few quilts, you get muscle memory, your arms get used to it, you get the feel of it, you get a feel of the machine. So practice. These are 12-inch square blocks. Practice with small blocks if you want to before putting your main quilt underneath is probably some good advice, and you'll get used to it. And it's confidence, because you want to keep going. You don't want to keep stop-starting, because when you stop-start, you're going to slightly shift your quilt, and that's when you get things going slightly out of place. So just keep going, keep the speed down, and you'll be fine.
Fantastic. Well, that's great. That's a great technique that you showed us.
Yeah.
What else can you show us today?
So I'm going to quickly show this one. This is a really good stitch for this machine. This is called the serpentine stitch. which is, I like to call the wiggle stitch.
It's a very forgiving stitch, that, isn't it?
It's the most forgiving
stitch. And you can
stitch.
lengthen it out, make it a bit wider.
And if you want to quilt a quilt quickly,
it's great.
Brilliant.
And
so
if
you'll see quite a few of mine like this.
If you're frightened, you can't get dead straight lines. That is very,
it's really good. And once you've actually washed it, the crinkly texture is fantastic, isn't it? So good. So all I've done is drawn one parallel line to go, again, just going to be my starting point. And literally follow that line. And as you can see, the needle's just going back and forth. So this is a really simple but effective stitch for quilting. And then you can either mark out, I normally do, with this one it's an inch apart, and I think I drew lines, but you could just use your...
I mean, the guide bar's quite good.
The guide bar would be perfect, yes, that would be great. So you'd literally have your guide bar coming off and it could sit along that line and go down again. So
and again, with the walking foot, I think we need to mention to people that the walking foot is designed to go forward, so we'd just use a straight stitch or maybe a zigzag or the serpentine. You wouldn't use it for any of your decorative stitches. You wouldn't get a very good result with it.
Yeah, it's designed just to go in one direction, yeah.
And it's great. I use mine for soft furnishings as well, for doing curtain tape, everything like that. Anything with lots of layers. Yeah, it's great. It feeds it through evenly.
Yeah, it's a fantastic bit of kit. It's definitely, I think it's just worth an investment if your machine doesn't already come with it.
If you've got tricky fabrics or stretchy fabrics, anything like that, it's really good just to take it through.
In my book, it's one of the most useful additional feet you can buy for any of the sewing machines.
So there we go, that's the serpentine stitch. You can just see just a slight difference there because it's just a bit closer together. But that's how easy that is. So yeah, that's that one. And then the last one I was going to show was, I haven't actually drawn a line on this fabric yet, but this is really, really simple. It looks like diamonds, but it's basically parallel lines. And then I use my quilting ruler and just draw one line at 60 degrees across this line and then follow that, and it causes this nice grid, which looks lovely on a cushion. If you're doing something smaller, not as big as a quilt, full quilt size.
So most rulers come with angles on them, don't they? So they've got 45 and 60
the quilting
is already there.
Yeah, on a good quilting ruler you'll have this here. So yes, I'm just going to... I'll just quickly...
Makes life much easier for us, doesn't it, when you can do that.
We like tools that have more than one purpose.
We do.
Yes, because it's how you cut your half square triangles and everything, isn't it? It's just... Right, go back to normal straight stitch, stitch length up. I'll do this very quickly. Again, if this was a full quilt, I'd be doing this from the middle, but to just save time. So I'm just using, again, like before, keeping the needle in the middle, but I'm just going to use the side of the walking foot as a guide against that first line. I'll just do one more, just to get an idea, and then... Okay, so you need to do these lines across the whole quilt, and then if you get your quilting ruler, I'll stand up this bit, and then where your 60-degree line is on your ruler, you just would just line that 60-degree line on your stitch line and then draw a line across your quilt, and that would give your 60-degree angle. You can do any angle you like. This just helps produce this kind of diamond effect. And then you just start again.
Possibilities are endless.
They really are, yeah.
It's a really simple tool. You know, you can just let your imagination run wild.
You really do just need a walking foot and a quilting ruler and a marker of some sort, and you can just do the most wonderful quilting designs. You don't need anything fancy. It's not hard. I think that's the biggest thing to get across. It's really, really easy. It's just confidence. And just practice on a bit of scrap paper. Make your own little quilt blocks like this and just give it a practice.
Do you find you make notes on them as well as to what your stitch length is at? And
I should do.
Different bits. You should. We all do it. We think we'll remember. Yeah. So we forget. Yeah.
I think I make a note if I've got a cream sample like this. I often do it on calico. If I've changed the factory setting, I do scribble on it with a ballpoint, and then I've got this box full of sort of little bits just because I changed the factory setting. It does remind me. And also if I change the thread or the needle, made a slightly thicker thread, it gives the different effect, doesn't it?
Yes, definitely. We've got some examples up on the table to show, haven't we? So that's the last design.
Thank you, Claire. Thank you for showing us those different techniques. Should we go and join our other experts, and we'll have a look at some more of your designs?
Yes.
We've joined our experts Valerie and Jane, and of course we have Claire with us as well. What did you think of those demonstrations then, those different techniques we saw?
It was fabulous. It really sort of inspired me to go home and do something different.
Absolutely, absolutely. And all with the walking foot, which is a skill, sewing is a skill that we all have and we love to do. So this is just more of it.
Yeah, it is, definitely. What inspired me most was the fact that you said you actually select your background fabrics, and I absolutely loved this one, and then you take the front off it, so that's inspired me to do my next project that way.
That's a real light bulb moment for all of us. We're like, what? That way round.
It's just simply because I find it too hard to pick fabrics for my patchwork on the front, and I think I've just fallen in love with printed fabrics, which I don't tend to use a lot of in my patchwork, and then taking those colours and putting it into the front.
Solid,
But as I said, you can also pick very similar printed fabrics that match as well. You don't have to keep a solid. So that's
a really, really nice way to do things, I think. So I should be trying that out.
It's a very different approach.
Yeah, let me fold this up.
I didn't realise it was so different. So
well, it's not one that I would have thought of, but no, it's great.
Claire, you demonstrated lots of techniques, and this is all of your work here. Where can we see these techniques in your samples today?
So the first one that I did, the double boomerang, is actually on that big cushion there. Yeah, that is actually done with a like a white thread. So it doesn't show up as much as this one here, but you can see it just gives the finished cushion fantastic depth and texture.
Really pops, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. And actually, quilters of my generation would have avoided the patchworky bit. I think we were saying that, and kind of gone around, because we look at this as a flying goose. But your pattern goes right across it and really gives it, as you say, texture and actually makes it more interesting.
Yeah, it does. It complements each other, doesn't it? Because standalone, I think this is amazing on its own. You could do a whole cloth like this, couldn't you? But then put on top of a patchwork, it kind of just enhances it, and
very much so.
Yes,
no, I love it. Yeah.
Makes it luxurious, doesn't it?
Yes. The serpentine design. This one here, I think this is my favourite actually.
The wiggle stitch.
The wiggle stitch. Wait, we can see it here. This is fantastic.
Yeah, it's so. I know, it's just such a great stitch. It's so quick, isn't it? It's like the fastest finish.
It's very versatile because you can alter the stitch width and length. You can space it further apart. You could actually cross hatch it if you wanted to give it another sort of design element going on there. And it's just very, very forgiving.
Yeah. And this is what I taught my daughter last week to do as well, because to get a 9-year-old to stitch straight is like a mission, isn't it? So to give her a wiggly stitch, which she thought was wonderful as well. So it's a great one if kids are like trying to learn to sew quilt as well.
The colours that you use, I mean, so bold and cheerful, just really exciting, really lovely to look at. And this, I mean, is just fabulous behind us as well. Do you want to talk us through that?
Yeah, so this one's very similar how I've quilted this one to the Echo Curved, apart from I started with a circle in the middle. It's called the spiral quilt design. And you do the same, you just follow your walking foot out from that inner circle all the way around and finished it. But the texture on a big quilt is my favourite way to finish off a quilt. Is fantastic.
It's absolutely fabulous. Thank you so much, Claire, Jane and Valerie. Thank you so much for joining us today in the Makers Studio. Thanks very much for watching.